Yeah, so maybe what we'll do, Julius and Jay, for our audience that aren't as familiar with you, if you don't mind going into your background, and Julius, maybe you could start first.
Yes, sure. Thanks, Trey. I'm Julius Francis. I'm heading up the product marketing for Juniper's automated WAN business. I'm really pleased to be part of this discussion today.
I'm Jai Thattil. I'm leading the strategic marketing initiatives for service providers. Been in the industry for a while, leading some of the 5G and ORAN activities, as well as like some of the emerging technologies.
Excellent. So maybe, as you know, in the hot seat, we like to get started right away. And recently you had this announcement that I was part of related to this whole metro area, which I always thought there was what I call a gap of innovation missing in this space. But when we look at the metro domain, it has the potential to drive a lot of service opportunities for operators and improve, the experience for these network users. But I always relate to, when it gets to a new topic, is what are some of the applications and the use cases that are going to drive this metro networking?
So thanks for the question, Ray. Definitely, before we get to the use cases and applications that's emerging, if you step back and look at what's happening in the metro is becoming a new edge, and it has a great big growth potential for the service providers. If you take a traditional metro, it's all about access aggregation. It's about aggregating the traffic and pushing the traffic deep into the network for services. Now that model is transforming. Now the metro is about connectivity, edge cloud hosting, and service experience are converging. More workloads are moving in. They're all moving in for various reasons about greater experience, right? And also, if you look at the potential side, and the data pointing the fact that subscribers are willing to pay more for the great experience. So great growth potential, great monetization potential. And what you're seeing is more and more traffic is coming to the metro. And one of your study, ACG study, pointing out more than 5x are going to come and stay within the metro. And it's all pointing to the fact that metro is transforming. So given that, I think the use cases why the more of the workloads moving in are like mobile streaming is skyrocketing, right? And they all need low bandwidth, high error rate, high bandwidth, and low latency. And metro is the ideal location for that. AR, VR, great data, heavy data streaming type of applications. Ultra mobile and relentlessly connected devices. These are all need edge cloud type of metro location, and gaming, CDN. So it is going to be a very interesting space. And these are some of the use cases that are driving the need now. But there are, and many of the operators are trying to think about building a converged metro, not only for the use cases of today, but also cases for tomorrow. But before I end my answer, all this, the question that's going through service providers' mind is, can I operate my current traditional metro in a sustainable way? The answer is no, because you have to look at, can I operate in a high profitable growth? Can I use and sustain the skill staff in a manual type of operational model? Can I even sustain a carbon footprint? We strongly believe that a new approach is needed.
Yeah, no, I think this is great because you touched on the sustainability part of it. And I think that's something that's not talked enough about creating sustainability to be able to be more efficient, especially after what's happened. But maybe if we look at some of the discussions going further, is that we see this whole cloudification of the RAN, right? And it's helping up the door for disaggregation and open RAN, right? How do you see this transforming the network dynamic, and what do you feel is driving this adoption there?
Cloudification definitely has transformed the RAN picture overall, right? It has moved into Cloud RAN, and then the Open RAN came into the picture, where you are disaggregating the traditionally integrated stack into multiple components, whether it's the radio unit, control units, or distribution units. All can be now put in different places with different vendors. So you can mix and match how operators are looking at their vendor landscape as well. So it used to be a one vendor system, now moved into multi-vendor ecosystem. So there are some challenges and a lot of opportunities coming along with that. And I think like one of the key elements of this disaggregation is this decoupling of RAN intelligence and the evolution of this, what we call this RAN intelligent controller, and which uses like an AI ML to optimize the networks. And this platform now provides a great base and an ecosystem of applications that can be onboarded. So traditionally, operators needed to rely on the single vendor ecosystem where they need to look at their product development lifecycle to bring in innovation. With this disaggregation and the RIC, you can have these multiple applications onboarded quite quickly, and cloudification is key to that, right? So RIC is designed to be cloud native from day one. It can run on whether service provider's private cloud or a hyperscaler public cloud. So this has built a lot more dynamics into the ecosystem. How you see the network from a RAN perspective, the disaggregation and multi-vendor ecosystem has brought so much more innovation into the network at the RAN side.
Yeah, no, the innovation, I think, is something that definitely it's been needed. But I think as we talk further into that, right, is, what are some of the operational challenges and architectures that you see? Because one of the things that I always see is when you look at like automate, right? And automation is, what are the use cases that need to be automated? What are the key challenges and drivers in automation that you see in the metro? Any advice for our audience on how to overcome some of these challenges as they look to transform the metro space?
Absolutely. Definitely, if you take a look at, as I earlier mentioned about the contrast between a traditional metro and what the cloud metro transformation trying to achieve, you have to look at the differences all the way, not only the operation, the system, and the architecture. On the operational front, in the traditional metro-wise, it's focused mostly on devices and manual operation and more of DIY type of model. And the expertise were typically trapped within individuals. That model worked because it's all about shifting packets. But when you now transform the metro to deliver that experience, now the focus of operation should move into service experience. And also the complexity of managing the endpoints, the devices, the service layer, you have to consider moving the metro operations into a more cloud delivered as a service, because that's the only way you could, as an operator, now could focus on operating the cloud metro rather than getting drowned in the complexity of the automation toolset itself. And also, you have to start thinking about bringing the AI ops models, because think about these are distributed clouds and the workloads are moving in there and things are getting connected in a rapid manner. And you don't want any degradation of services impacting the service experience, and which leads to churn. The important is to keep the AI ops more of a predictive nature and remediate issues. As I mentioned on the system side, definitely, I think in the previous systems and platforms, all about traffic aggregation, monolithic power designs, but now you have to make choices on systems that deliver a richness on routing, which can help you scale better and also provide network slicing better. And also energy efficiencies kept. You have to really think in some of the design choices you make on the platforms as going forward, and bring future-proofing that platforms, because as we talked about, these networks are not only for today, but also for tomorrow. And finally, on the architectural front, you have to think about convergence. You have to think about how am I going to actively assure the services that I am enabling on this network. And finally, it's all about bringing zero trust security, because security is paramount important, and it cannot be an afterthought. It needs to be built in.
I think addressing some of these challenges, but Jai, do you see similar challenges going on in the ORAN space? Do you think the whole cloudification will help break down some of those barriers?
Cloudification is definitely bringing down the barriers, but I think like the biggest challenge that ORAN has is adoption itself, right? The technology is still at a very early stage, but also if you look from an operator perspective, you really don't want to rip and replace this huge install base that you have been investing for decades, so to speak. Right? So they are really looking at it as like a piece by piece upgrade to the technology for specific use cases and don't want to go for a major overhaul. Then the biggest challenge is the integration. Of course, by disaggregation, you opened up the ecosystem, you're bringing in more players. That also means like operators don't get a single throat to choke when something goes wrong. So the integration is definitely a key area, and automation has simplified a lot of it. It's not like how it used to be, but with automation and open APIs, you have managed to bring multiple vendors together, and some of the vendors are already coming with the pre-integrated solution. So that is helping automation together with cloudification. But then there is another part, which is the standardization aspect. You really need to get those standard specs for each of those interfaces that we are talking about. And that effort is still ongoing, right, with ORAN Alliance and others. But again, I'll go back to the opportunity side where you can bring in these use cases that you can onboard quite quickly, bringing efficiency, you can steer the traffic, you can look into the slicing, you can assure like, who you are delivering when, switch off some of the towers if you're not using them, that way, like, saving energy and resources. So there are several opportunities. And the biggest one I'm seeing with the automation coming into the picture is pulling together the IP bit and the RAN side and bringing it all together from an end-to-end slicing perspective. And that automation helps you to manage and orchestrate from an end-to-end perspective, right? So there are a lot of benefits that is happening. The barriers are still there, but it is slowly brought down by cloudification and automation.
Yeah, no, this is good that you're seeing it, because I'm seeing similar things from that area. And I think the fact that automation playing a big role will help reduce the whole concept of what we see moving forward there. But when we look at it from a Juniper perspective, what role does Juniper play in innovating for this particular space?
So definitely you saw us launching our Cloud Metro solution in the market on July 1st. It was an exciting, innovative solution that we are bringing in, because what we have articulated so far is about, it's a new approach needed. And we see a new way to approach a solution set is needed rather than leasing platform. So in our launch, we are pretty much launching a new category for a sustainable metro business growth. I think we addressing our solution in three folds, right? First about is sustainable operation. We are bringing in Paragon automation as a cloud service. So taking away the complexity of managing, operating, and moving away from DIY type of models. And with that, we are bringing AI enabled to offer that AI ops capabilities. And we just, on that launch day, we demonstrated our device onboarding, one of the top use cases desired by our service provider customers. And second, it's about sustainable systems. And before I move into the sustainable systems, the main thing about the business outcomes that operators are looking for and what we are delivering with our Paragon automation as service is about 50% reduction in deployment time. That's key win. And then 70% faster new use case deployment. These are some of the rapid changes service providers are looking for. And also 40% cost reduction. These are key outcomes when it comes to operations. On the system front, we have delivered 4 new platforms, all the way from cell-side routers to access to aggregation to pre-act. And these systems are designed with efficiency, space and efficiency in mind. And when it comes to space and efficiencies, we deliver the highest portfolio scale all the way up to 345 terabits per second, a massive capacity. And then high capacity per slot, all the way to 21.6 terabits, high port flexibility. And most important thing I want to highlight is about some of the power innovation, adaptive power innovation, what we have done. We have created a modular removable power shelves, and we paid attention to our chassis design in airflow and how we cool the systems, and also some of the innovations on how do we turn off some unused packet forwarding engines and software function. These all points to almost up to 77% lower power consumptions, sustainability, right? Space efficiency all the way to 64%, and almost a lower TCO cost to 70%. So these are key business outcomes we delivered through our platforms and systems. And finally, on the architectural front, we are embedding our active assurance agents directly into Juno's evolved operating system. That means all these active service assurance is available in all our platforms. This means service providers can now actively assure and validate all the services proactively. And finally, zero trust security. We are securing the devices and software. So cryptographically, we are embedding the device identity right into the devices. So this makes service providers can build a secure infrastructure, and we are not stopping with that. We also delivered the data security, data at rest, and data in transit. And finally, I also wanted to mention that with this launch, we also introduced Juniper branded co-developed 400 gig ZR plus coherent pluggable optics. So with this, Juniper is really taking a business outcome-based approach and thinking cloud metro transformation as a solution set, addressing operation system and architecture to deliver the real outcomes that is needed right into the cloud metro space.
And Jay, what are your thoughts on this related to ORAN?
Yeah, for us, it's simply to be an independent platform provider with a wider ecosystem. That's the goal. Julius was talking about how Paragon automation is being used in the cloud metro. We want to extend that to the RAN as well to make sure we can provide that end-to-end SMO, and it's a key provider of that. We have been, since our acquisition of Rick from Netsia, we have been working on getting that ecosystem ready, and we've been building that one by one. We worked with Intel, Rakuten, brought in some of the cloud native networking. Then we had the radio vendors like Parallel Wireless and Casa Systems, then the technology specialists and testers like Keysights and Viavi. So we have been chipping away from that ecosystem and building that wider ecosystem that is needed. Then you must have seen some of the recent announcements that we did with Vodafone and Turk Telecom in terms of the trials. So our focus has been to build this rig together with the partners, focus on the key use cases, and also work with ORAN Alliance in terms of developing the specs and be the key driver for what standardization is going to be when it's finally done. So this is where we have been focusing so far on.
This is excellent. I mean, I think what I like about it is the comprehensiveness of this. It isn't just here's a strategy, a position. There's new products. There's a part about AI ops, simplification. There's the use cases that yourself and Jay, actually, our audience is going to give you a round of applause for them. So it wasn't too bad being in the hot seat, was it?
Not really at all.
No.
Absolutely. I think we enjoyed the discussion. It's a needed discussions, especially in this transformative stage.
Yeah, and I think there's some papers also that for the audience, we could provide in the link that they could download to look at some of the details and go deeper dive into some of the TCO, some of the findings, and some of the architectural stuff. So you're officially off the hot seat. Jay and Julius, thanks for joining.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.